Good evening. Welcome to Earth to the Other Side. My name is John. I'm your host, and tonight I have the pleasure of speaking with Janelle Washington, who had a shared death experience back in 2012. Welcome to the show, Janelle. Nice to have you here.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I'd give you a big hug if you were here.
Can you sort of explain to the audience what a shared death experience is exactly?
Yeah, a shared death experience. It's under the heading of um spiritually transformative experience. And that is something that changes your life dramatically. And a shared death happens when somebody that is close to you passes away and you experience what they're experiencing. And mine was just, it was, I was with God for 30 minutes. So a lot of shared death experience, so many of them, but a lot of people don't talk about it because they are scared that they'll get ridiculed. And I certainly did from my family, and my two best friends thought I went bonkers. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I understand that.
That's got to be difficult. So
Yeah.
take me through this. So how does this, I'm going to hand the floor over to you, but like take us through how this started and how, was this the first time that this happened to you?
Yes. And I got hints all throughout my life that I always felt like there's something out there that's happening that's important, but I don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
the first the first tip I got, I was 8 years old, and I was at home and at peace. Nobody else was there. And I got this really strong feeling that um I missed home so much. And I knew it was important, that little tip that the universe gave me, because I remembered it clear as day, that feeling, you know.
Mm.
And I think I was 18, and I remember I was always introspective, and um, I remember getting, I was a hippie, and I had just read a small book on meditation and tried that, and that's interesting. And so I was at home and I got into a yoga position, and I said, because I didn't know what was happening out there. And I said, why am I here? And I got an automatic response that said, you're here to help people. And I said, at 18, you're so selfish. And I said, oh, no way. Okay, I didn't do that right. Well, let me get in a better yoga position and do this. And okay, why am I here? Boom, you're here to help people. And I said, oh, that's just my mind. That's just my thoughts. So screw that. And my next tip was was in the 90s, and I was a makeup artist, and I was having a resume made, and I went to pick it up, and I stepped up to the front desk, and this man just worked alone, and he was in the back on his computer. And I said, hello, I'm here. And he came to the front desk and he started yelling at me uh, to the top of his voice, and I left my body. Uh, I wasn't used to people screaming at me because my parents were passive aggressive. You know, I went to the top of the ceiling and I was looking down at him, yelling at me, and I saw the bald spot on the back of his head, you know. And then I went right back in my body, and I said, "Well, I guess you don't want my business then. Bye bye." And I remember I was with my husband, and I thought, "Oh God, I'm not going to tell him because he's kind of scientific." And I just tucked it away. I want to go back to my father when he died, and he'd been in the a um a nursing home for 2 months, and the last time I saw him alive, I was with my mom, and she wasn't. She said she believed in God, but not deeply, like I do. Never talked about it. And my dad was, God, both of them were lucid at 95 years old to the very end. And my dad was breathing heavily. And I said, Dad, do you think you're dying? And he said, yes. And my mom yelled at me saying, he doesn't want to talk about that crap, because she didn't want to hire hospice at all. And I said, well, I want to tell you something. My best friend years ago told me this something that happened to her, and she had what's called a near-death experience, and she went through the tunnel, and Jesus Christ picked her up, and they started talking about her life, and she said, and she was born Catholic, but was metaphysical from teenage, and she said that uh, when automatically, and Jesus asked her, do you want to come with me or do you want to go back? And she said, I want to go with you. And she was automatically thrown back into her hospital bed and was so mad. She grabbed everything on her tray and was throwing it. I should have known. And Dad said, oh, okay, okay, okay. And so I said, well, Dad, I got to go to work now. And he said, okay. And I said, I love you. And he said, I love you back, which was the second time I only heard that from him because he was a manly man. And I thought to myself, as I'm driving my mom home, I thought to myself, oh, that was a cool conversation. I'm going to go back and talk to him again. So I dropped my mom off and I was driving to work. I was driving down this beautiful street. And I started getting this very subtle feeling of contentedness. And I just thought, oh, well, I'm having a good day. This is rare. It's cool. I'm paying attention. And within a minute, it slowly became profound, unconditional love, which I'd never experienced before. And I'm just filled with this undescribable love. And I'm driving perfectly and I'm getting this vision over to the right. And it's what my dad is seeing. And it's heaven. And it lasts under 10 seconds. And it's almost like God said, really, Janelle, you won't say the G word yet? And and I'm thinking, oh my God, And so I was enveloped in this unconditional love for 30 minutes, but it slowly started dissipating just like a sunset would. And as I pulled into work, I knew, boop, and I looked at the time and it went away, but I was in shock and I had to work. I have no idea how I did it. I was acting normally. And I got a phone call because I had to turn my phone off doing massage. And I checked my phone. Somebody said that my dad died at 4:40. And I thought, nah, he died at 2:30. Yeah, he died at 2:30. And then rationally thinking, yeah, if somebody dies like that, they got to call they didn't have a doctor on the premise and they had to call him and then he had to, call the time of death. And well, that makes sense. About 9 months later, I joined a in-person near-death experience group. It was an Eins group at the time. And it's like, oh my God, I found my tribe. Yeah. So I did healing and I'm still doing healing with this in-person group and on Zoom too, with others, like me.
Do you mean
And
others who have also had shared death experiences and or NDEs, or just?
uh, the in-person group, they there's just a few that have
Okay.
had NDEs, shared death experiences, and um, spontaneous transformative experiences.
Hmm.
But then, there's so many people online, that are telling their stories. There's just millions, as you know.
For sure, yeah. So when this all happened, this the latest one in 2012, you were on the way to work, right? So it's not like you even have to be within the same room as the person when you're having a shared death experience. You could be anywhere for that matter.
Nope,
Did you also sense the presence of your father or his soul or his consciousness?
I didn't. I think
No.
I was looking through his eyes.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. So have you had any further communication with your father in any way since his passing?
No, no. I do talk to him a lot. And I have a friend that's a medium. And on two different occasions, she said, yeah, I see this man. He's a really manly man, and he doesn't really want to communicate with me. And that's so my dad, but he's here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So how
that's
would you
better.
describe, if you can describe it in a little more detail, you were saying earlier how you felt sort of half in heaven and half here, like one foot in the door and one foot out of it. How would you describe that? Like, what's that like for you?
There's no words.
Hmm. But is it something that happens while in meditation, or could you just be
No,
doing something in everyday life?
all
And
the time.
okay, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming on. Blessings to you, and thanks again for doing this.